Welcome to Past the Projections.
Fantasy experts, really. You should really consider us the pinnacle of fantasy football knowledge.
The host, Adam Skinner, the coach. There was a lot of debate on whether or not he would be that great. The guru, Thomas Lozano.
Kid's a playmaker, like you touched on there for a second.
Statman, Danny Pert.
Definitely a touchdown threat. Love the frame, love what I saw from him.
The wizard, Chris Roth.
Solid player with good floors.
The coach, the guru, the statistician, and the wizard. Talking fantasy football, Dynasty League specifically.
I just come here because I like to talk. And if you want to listen to me, it's completely on you.
Past the Projections crew back once again. Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you here. We, once again, without Danny Pert, but Adam Skinner, Thomas Lozano, Chris Roth, holding down the fort as always. Plenty of great Dynasty League information for you today. We're going to go over some winners and losers from the 2021 NFL Draft. So after everything, the dust has settled, there are some names that gained a lot of stock from the draft results and some that fell pretty far. We'll go over our favorite picks in that, and then also some NFL news for you that we like to cover every week. Gentlemen, how you feeling about the results of the draft? Were you happy? Were you sad? Are you excited? What happened?
I felt pretty good about it for the most part. As a Cowboys fan, would love to have seen them shore up the number one corner, but those guys came off the board pretty quick, and rightfully so. But still ended up with a nice defensive piece in Micah Parsons, and so can't be too upset about that.
Yeah, actually, I was surprised that the Broncos took Surtain there, so that really hurt. That definitely was the big shocker, I think, that threw off what the Cowboys' plans. But I'm happy that the Eagles don't have to face him twice a year. So, me and my Eagles, I'm definitely happy. Chris, how you? I mean, obviously, you're probably happy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was Camp Sewell for that pick, but I love Chase. He's a crazy talent. Putting him with Joe Burrow again is gonna be sweet. I think that's gonna be my first new Bengals style jersey. Is me that black, the black with the orange stripes, that number 1 Chase. That's gonna look slick. So that they did actually get some O-line help in the back. They seem to kind of shore up the trenches. So they got O-line help. They also got D-line help. They did help out their defense a little bit. The defense was awful last year, like just so bad. Their offense was firing on all cylinders there for the first 5 games or so, until of course Joey B went down. But I think overall it was pretty good. Also, I did kind of like seeing that Surtain pick for the Broncos, because I want them to stick with Locke and help me out with the bets that I always seem to make against Broncos fans here in Denver.
You're probably going to win a lot of bets now that you got Jamar Chase on top of everything, which I'm sure we'll be bringing up at some point in the show. Foreshadowing. However,
how about you? Let's hear about
Eagles,
you.
How do I feel about the Eagles?
Yeah.
I feel fantastic. Devontae Smith, are you kidding me? We actually have a weapon on offense. Kenny Gainwell. Another weapon on offense in the backfield. And once again, I'll be talking about this later in the show about how excited I am about my Eagles because, man, I like what we did. But everyone likes what they did with the draft. You feel so optimistic and hopeful, and then you watch the preseason, and you're like, this guy actually sucks. Why did we draft him? So,
they get hurt and they're out for the year.
So speaking of injuries, actually, let's start with that with the NFL news. Juwan James, that's a fun one for the Broncos. Off-site workout, out for the year. He's played a quarter in the 2 years he's been there, so he's potentially losing. And they're talking about not paying him. Chris? How much is he going to lose?
A little over $23 million.
That's a lot of money. So, I mean, that's beside the point. Just the fact that that's awful that in the NFL that they're considering not paying that guy, because you need to stay in shape, as a player. But what are the implications for the Broncos, you think, in that offense, Thomas? How much does that hurt?
I mean, it's going to hurt them, I think, more than we're anticipating right off the bat, just because they were expecting big things out of Juwan James. They paid him big money, and so they were really looking forward to him taking that next step. but to now already have issues on the perimeter of the offensive line, it doesn't speak any better to us than last year. I mean, Locke was on the run. I feel like more often than not last year, you take away an offensive lineman, and it's only going to increase those chances of him running for his life a little more than usual.
I mean, if we weren't that high on Broncos players to begin with, this really doesn't help because I think the offensive line is actually their biggest problem, and that's the thing holding them back the most, especially with Drew Lock and the tough quarterback situation now with Teddy Bridgewater. So,
Actually, I'm looking at it right now. So James signed 2019. He played 3 games due to a knee injury. He only played 3 games that year. He opted out.
oh right,
So he's only played 3 games.
3 years, 3 games.
Wow.
That's a good investment. I know Broncos fans aren't happy.
Well, that's why they're trying to get that money back. It sounds
Yeah,
like.
exactly. It's just that's a tricky situation in itself. I don't want to. Ugh. I don't like how it's going to play out. But I will say, fantasy wise, I'm not too keen on Broncos players, which once again we will be bringing up later in the show. But other news: Eagles. We got picking up Kerryon Johnson, a Kerryon Johnson sighting.
Off waivers. They didn't even let him hit free agency. They're like, nah, we're putting a claim in on
Absolutely.
him.
How, is that fantasy relevant? Are we going to have to talk about Kerryon Johnson again?
I hope not. I mean, because you got Miles Sanders and Kenny Gainwell there already, right? Why do we need to talk about 3 other running backs in that
Gordon
room?
Howard.
But again, maybe a little bit of
Yeah,
foreshadowing.
is there some foreshadowing on that possibly?
It's like we're relevant
Yeah,
or
it's weird
something.
that this NFL news. This seems to be what we were talking about now too. But
I mean, also, but so Kerryon Johnson, he is not an explosive player anymore. But the big thing is his blocking. So he can come in and help out and actually help out that Eagles O-line as a good blocker there. I mean, I think he'll at least make the roster personally, but he's not going to be fantasy.
yeah, the Eagles like
relevant.
to carry a lot of running backs. I'm aware of that, and I don't think he will be fantasy relevant at all. I would say in that backfield. Well, we'll talk more about that later.
More
Right.
foreshadowing.
Last piece of news: DK Metcalf today ran that 100-yard dash. I don't know if you saw that. It was pretty impressive actually. 10.37. Finished 15th out of 17, but those are the best sprinters in the world. So, what does that mean for NFL players? Like the level of talent that's on the field. Do you think Tyreek Hill's next?
I mean, he certainly could throw his hat in there. I think he's mentioned
Yes.
it before. I don't know if it was jokingly or not, but DK putting himself out there. I mean, those are Olympic qualifiers right there. He's one of the fastest men in the world. So obviously, we know what sort of value and upside that DK brings to the Seahawks and your fantasy teams, but he could certainly make a career as a track runner if he really wanted to.
Honestly, if I'm a DK Metcalf owner, which I was, and I traded him last year and won a championship because of it. Thank you, Chris. But I don't know if his value gets any higher. It will get higher, but it's just right now his value is sky high.
I would say the big winner here, honestly, is the sport of track
Yeah.
and field, because a guy like DK Metcalf coming from the NFL, who brings so many eyeballs, to go over and run this qualifier for the Olympics, I think garnered them a lot of attention. I mean, whether we're talking just about DK, who took 9th place, not necessarily about the guy who's going to the Olympics, we're still talking about track and field. So I think that this was a pretty big win for those
Yeah,
guys.
it's a win-win-win, not really situations. The NFL wins from it too, and then now we're talking about NFL players. We're seeing just how talented they are, and we might start seeing some more crossover in the future, and really getting the most talented people into the most talented situation. You're gonna find out just how quick and good these players are.
Anthony Schwartz, I mean, it was rumored that he would be able to, like, he had Olympic level speed. He did the 10.07 or something like that, so he was even
Right.
faster. But reportedly the reason why he didn't pursue it is because you can make way more money in the NFL.
Well, just like we were talking about, nobody talks about track and field. We all watch the NFL. So, yeah, absolutely. These guys make usually the decision early because a lot of them are track stars in high school and in college. But like Chris just mentioned, as far as a career move goes, you want to go get paid millions in the
course.
NFL.
Oh yeah, and it's in the notoriety too, and the fame and everything. It's just when we were coaching our kids in high school, we almost demanded they went and ran track. You just need to in the off season. It helps you learn how to proper running form. It keeps your body limber, and it's just good for. I mean, it just breeds athletes. Track and field. They're pure athletes. So if you have a kid that struggles with his physical side, you just send them to the track team for the spring, and they come in to football ready to go. So yeah, I think this is definitely it's a good move, and it'll be interesting in the future to see who tries next. I really want to see what Tyreek Hill can do.
I was also I was trying to look it up. I just found it. So Patrick Mahomes mentioned that Tyreek should run it. He should try
Sure
out and
did.
stuff. Tyreek's response was, "I'm currently in my off-season weight, 196. LOL. I'm fat, bro." Two smiling and crying emojis. So I think that's Tyreek's official
Yeah,
response.
for this year. We'll see. He'll step outside and run faster than DK though. Watch. I'd bet on that actually. All right, enough news. We're moving on. Winners and losers from the draft. It was a really awesome draft night and this weekend. There were a lot of big names that went into interesting spots. We did our mock last week and talked about the interesting landing spots in general. A lot of receivers coming off the board into a lot of different places. So there was a lot that changed, and some for the better, some for the worse. We're going to start, however, with the better because I like the positive side. So, Thomas, we did this a little differently. I picked one from each position. Thomas picked three overall, but we also have extra tidbits in the end. Who are your big three winners?
I mean, well, just to kind of run them down quick, I've got Trey Sermon, Justin Herbert and the Chargers offense, and then Lamar Jackson and the Ravens pass offense.
Yeah,
To bring it back to the top, anybody who's been paying attention to us, anybody who's been listening to me talk, as I say in the intro every time, you're hearing me talk about Trey Sermon. You're hearing me talk about how much I love Trey Sermon, what he does, what he could bring to a backfield. And now he gets drafted to the San Francisco 49ers, playing under Kyle Shanahan, who is one of the most innovative minds in the league. And so to have a little piece of that, especially in some dynasty, I would love to have any piece of that I can. They did wrap around late and bring in Elijah Mitchell as well. So they're redoing that backfield. Raheem Mostert, Tevin Coleman, I believe, are both goners after this year. And even then, I don't think that they have a very high dead cap if they don't make the team post June 1st.
450,000 and 400,000 respectively.
Wow. So less than $1 million to show the two guys the door. They got Jeff Wilson there, who's kind of a utility player. But these two guys, these two new young studs, are going to be the new face of that backfield. And I want any piece of it that I can get.
How are you going to get a piece of it? That's the key. How early is Trey Sermon going in drafts? He's just moved up and up and up. I mean, in our mock, he went 9, which was pretty low, really. I bet by the time we roll around to the season, he's going even higher in some. I've seen him go as high as 5. What
Yeah, I mean, and the hype is strong right now. The hype is very strong. I still have him right around that 8-9 position, just because there's still a load of talent there in that first 7 picks. But he's kind of done the same thing that Clyde Edwards-Helaire did last year, where Edwards-Helaire was kind of 7th, 8th, 6th on some people's boards, but then got drafted to a great situation, and he shot up to number 1 overall, kind of turning that into a top 3 running back steal. In my opinion, he's shot himself up so much that it's now a top 4 running backs. You've got Najee Harris, ATN, Javonte Williams, and now Trey Sermon. So I want to say he's really catapulted himself into this top 8, top 7 range. Any lower than that, you're getting
Yeah,
a steal.
and we mentioned last week. Also, don't forget Michael Carter. There's really 5 running backs in this draft that are in spots that are really going to go early. But I'm curious to see how high he goes. I might argue with you on Trey Sermon. That's a great. You said it before the draft. He did land in a really good spot for him. Secondly, you mentioned who was the second one on your list?
I had Justin Herbert and the Chargers offense. They just made a great move. They were able to trade down and still get their guy, Rashawn Slater, who, if you'll go back, and I know that all the analysts talk about this, but if you go back and watch his 2 games against Chase Young, he absolutely dominates Chase Young. And we all know that Chase Young is a monster. So he's got the chops to really cut it at left tackle. And I think that's going to be great for the production and the growth of Justin Herbert, which, I mean, he's already shown he's a QB1. He was QB number 8 last year, coming in kind of behind a mix and match offensive line. I think a little bit more stability there. They brought in some more offensive pieces. Josh Palmer, Trey McKitty. We know Keenan Allen and Eckler are going to eat. But those two guys certainly could start to step up and either creep into sleeper territory or start to make more of a intermediate impact.
So you're thinking Herbert might go up into that QB1 range of Mahomes Allen ish? That's like high. That's
I could certainly see myself talking about Justin Herbert in the top five
okay.
next year. I mean, granted, right now, I could arguably put him there because we kind of booted Deshaun Watson for the legal reasons as of right now. As of right now, he's not going to provide us any immediate value, and long term, it's very murky. So Justin Herbert's shown he can make the throws, and he's got a big arm, and this offense is showing that they want to continue to protect him and put these pieces around him in order for him to succeed.
I like that move too. Herbert looks. I mean, it's not that Herbert was ever going to go lower, but definitely when they bring in offensive line help and shore up the tackle position, you feel good about a quarterback. And when you got a young kid tied to a young tackle, then again, it's just going to spell big time production. So
they also just brought in Brandon Staley. Reportedly, once he got the job, he called his wife, and then secondly, he called
nice.
So they brought him in. Like, I think Herbert was a big draw for him to take this job, and I think that speaks.
The Chargers. I mean, every year we talk about them possibly having a breakout year. This might be the time, and they've already had some talent on that offense.
And they beefed up the defense even more. You know, they brought in Asante Samuel, and I believe they brought in somebody else. Real quick, no, it's Asante Samuel, then Chris Rumph, late 118th overall. But still, you're gonna get Derwin James back. We keep forgetting about Derwin James. That kid's a playmaker on defense, and then they're gonna get Bosa back, and so that defense is gonna look sharp. It's gonna look young. And then you want to hold up and beef up that offensive line so that your quarterback continues to
I can see Eckler having another 100-catch season on top of the rushing yards he's putting up. So look for Eckler. Eckler's just going to be more and more valuable.
Yeah, and I mean, he was hurt last year, but it's still RB26. Right. That's not. I mean, that's RB2. Yeah. You know, he's going to be back to RB1 status. I think pretty cool.
Oh yeah. And then third, you had the Ravens. Obviously, the Ravens had a great draft.
Yeah. Well, so I had Lamar Jackson in their pass offense in particular, just because Greg Roman, who's been their offensive coordinator since 2017, he's done nothing but take this offense to new heights every year. And it really culminated in 2019 when they led the league in points. They were scoring over 32 points a game. They led the league in rush yards by a mile. And so he's very adamant now that he wants to kind of balance this out so that you don't focus so much on the run with those guys, although they were very successful at it. So I think that they really, really showed that by drafting Rashad Bateman late in the first round. They brought in Ben Cleveland, so they still want to stay committed to the run, rebuild that offensive line. But then they also brought in Tylan Wallace. So it does speak volumes that they want to open things up for Lamar Jackson and show that, he's not just our running back. But he had 36 passing touchdowns when he was MVP in 2019. So I don't see any reason why he can't replicate something like that as long as they are committed to staying balanced.
I think they also figured out as a team they can't get where they want to get with the system they have right now. It's too, relying on the run game as much as they do, they need to have scare some defenses away from stacking the box like the Chargers did 2 years ago, and who beat them last year? It was the Bills, where they just bring everybody in and you shut down the run, and Lamar Jackson struggled. Because even then, when you try to open it up, Lamar's under pressure really quick, and he has a hard time making quick decisions. It's hard to play quarterback in the NFL when you have zero time to throw the ball. So them fixing the offensive line and giving him some speed on the outside is definitely interesting. How high are you taking any of these players? Are you thinking must trade now? Is Bateman Bateman's a first rounder in the draft probably, but how high are you on him? Because the Ravens receivers historically have not had a lot of success.
Right. And, I'm not going to change my stance on Bateman at all. I mean, he's still one of the more pro-ready receivers coming out of the draft and should be one of the more productive ones. So I think slotted there late first round between that 8 and 10 mark. Again, if you're getting up, I think past the 10 mark, you're getting a good value on your hands there.
Do you think he puts up wide receiver 2 numbers? I don't think he's quite that good yet.
And it's just going to be all dependent on what they really want to do with that offense. Because if Greg Roman, and just to kind of circle back to that Bills game, his immediate reaction was, we just didn't get enough points up on the board, obviously. And that's how it goes. But it sounds like they really want to start to open things up. And so I could see him putting wide receiver 2 numbers up. But I think to open the season, I would comfortably slot him as flex until we saw something
Yeah,
more.
I agree. I think it's more about the potential on that offense. I think the biggest winner of that is Lamar Jackson. He is probably now jumped up the QB rankings pretty high because he does have those options.
He's
Yeah.
creeping.
And we'll have to keep our eye on the receivers just to see how much he uses them. I wouldn't put them up too high right away, but they might be a good buy low candidate right now because you might get some premier talent.
I think Marquise Brown is kind of getting a little pooped on here just because he's not the new toy right now, but he's still a productive wide receiver in this offense, and they're going to be able to utilize him, I think, in different ways now that he won't be the focal point from the defensive
Yeah, you
back
gotta keep
standpoint.
forgetting Hollywood's there. You got to remember. He's hanging around. He hasn't had a chance to break out yet. So, yeah, I like that situation too.
Is there enough trust there to say make the trade before preseason?
That's I mean, Lamar Jackson obviously is going to be a must trade if in a super flex for sure. You're not going to be able to get him anyway. But in a single QB,
This is
yeah,
this is crazy. We were actually talking about trading, I think, Lamar
Yeah.
away late last
We were.
year, and now we all want to go back and get him again. So it just goes to show in dynasty, value can be volatile, but at the same time, you don't want to cut bait too
yeah.
soon.
And it looked like the offense was going to be built around him running, and now that they're showing they want to throw the ball and bringing in weapons to do that, it does change a lot of values. I would say the receivers are probably more buy candidate because they're going to be more affordable, but Lamar Jackson
Yeah.
value is definitely going up. So
Still know what you're getting into with Hollywood. He's still going to be boomer bust, but I think that his arrow is pointing
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
if you will. So if you can get him, I think for late seconds
Third.
or some future thirds, it depends on how people are valuing him and if they see the same thing
yeah,
that we're seeing.
I agree. And now that I just made my trade, I got 4/3. Maybe I'll make a trade for Hollywood.
Buy the
Yeah,
dip.
Purple. Doge. All right, I got my winners. QB, I'll start with. My winner is Jalen Hurts. Running back winner, Mike Davis. Receiver winner, Allen Robinson. Tight end winner, Mike Gesicki. And I'll go back down. Start with Hurts, my guy, now in Philly, because that's what we just. He's a winner, obviously, just in the fact that the Eagles didn't draft a quarterback. So beautiful. Now we know who the starter is, and he can rest a little bit easier. And owners of him know that they're getting at least a good starting quarterback with a lot of potential. But then also bringing in Devonta Smith, second round, picking up Landon Dickerson, and then Kenny Gainwell in the fourth round at running back is a great pass catching option. They're not giving Hurts any excuses. He's still got a first round receiver on the team in Jalen Reagor from last year. Dallas Goedert, don't forget, is a great tight end, and Ertz is still there as of now, although he more than likely will not be moving into next year. But the weapons around Hurts are actually looking like they has weapons. So Jalen Hurts' value is going way up, and he was QB4 when he played. In the 4 games he started, he was the 4th best quarterback in fantasy. That was with a decimated Eagles team and a season that they basically just gave up. Jalen Hurts has potential to be a QB1, especially with those rushing numbers that he puts up. He can be there, so I would definitely keep my eye on him.
It's a small sample size, though. Keep in mind, it's 4 games.
Very true.
Granted, he certainly has potential to be top 10. To go any higher than that, though, is to be seen.
Just saying, I would value him if I can get him low. I don't think you can get him cheap anymore, and
I've been seeing him as free agents in some league, and that's not a
he's
joke.
sitting on the free agent wire still.
In some
Oh,
leagues.
are you thinking he's free agent worthy? Would you pick him up?
I mean, he's certainly worth a flyer, absolutely.
Oh,
If
yeah,
you're in need of a
100%.
quarterback, I mean, in Superflex, that's a no-brainer. In 1 QB leagues, it depends how deep your league is. And a 12 team, he might be free agent material. It just depends on what he can show, on the field. 14 teamer, absolutely. You want to take another flyer on him.
Yeah,
absolutely.
honestly, I mean, obviously, as an Eagles fan, geez, I'm high, but I'm happy. We actually look like a team. There's talent there, so we'll see.
Yeah, I liked that. I liked that Landon Dickerson pick.
Yeah.
I really liked that pick for the Eagles. That was a great pick because I think his medicals aside, he could have been a first
would've.
rounder. But I think people were very skittish, and then he had the knee injury in the championship game, and so they didn't know how quick of a turnaround he was going to make, and so he slid a little bit. But that's a great pick for the
Yeah,
Eagles there.
definitely looking up in Philly on offense. Running back, my winner, Mike Davis. Obviously, with the Falcons going into the draft, everyone thought they were taking a running back, and they didn't. So good on Mike Davis. Mike Davis owners have to be thrilled right now. I mean, I'm kicking myself for not at least trading for him pre-draft. I just assumed the Falcons would take somebody with all the running backs there in the draft, and they must really like Mike Davis. He did get that 2-year, $5.5 million contract, so I guess they put a little bit of money toward him. I think they think that's enough to carry the load there, and he's proven he can do it in Carolina. And then you add Kyle Pitts at tight end, so the pressure's not on the running game. Mike Davis could be a really great late running back selection in leagues. He can sneak in and give you a flex appeal and bye-week running back status, and then possibly, depending on what happens, he could actually put up some really good numbers. We saw with Devontae Freeman for a few years in Atlanta. Running backs can't eat, so I'm high on Mike Davis. What are you thinking?
So I'm not super high on Mike Davis, and the only reason why I get it, he's got a clear path to a great workload. But when he took over Christian McCaffrey last year, I believe he had 3 or 4 games where he was an absolute stud, RB1, and then he had a pretty serious fizzle off there where he didn't do much. And so there's a lot of questions here. Can he handle an RB1 workload? How involved in the passing game is he going to be? And realistically, how much are the Falcons going to even run the ball? They just drafted Kyle Pitts. They still, as of right now, have Julio Jones. Unless something happens post June 1st where they look to move Julio, whether it be for future assets or an asset they make it happen right now, that could change the landscape of the offense. But from where I'm sitting and from what I'm looking at, it looks like they're going to be a very pass-heavy offense.
Yeah, and
Also, so after those 3 games, I believe it was, he averaged 7.5 points a game after that. So it blew up. Like, if we look at his season-long stats and points, it's pretty decent, but it's because he blew up those first few games and then averaged out 8 points. But though, if you look at his depth chart, Quadri Allison is right behind him, Tony Brooks-James, Javian Hawkins, who I like. But that's a bunch of people that you know. No names,
right.
really.
I mean, Mike Davis is going to get the touches there. I will say, Todd Gurley last year proved that Atlanta is not a very stable running environment, and Todd Gurley definitely has some talent left, although he did look basically done. Unfortunately, the injuries caught up to him. But Mike Davis is just saying opportunity. The opportunity is there, and if you're a Mike Davis owner, you have a lot of value in him. So if you're not feeling the Atlanta offense, move Mike Davis now, because you're probably never gonna be worth more than he is at this moment. And if you need a running back for cheap as a backup, like I said, a third running back or a fourth running back who can give you some bye-week production, I'd be looking for Mike Davis. Receiver winner, Allen Robinson. He finally got a quarterback. Well, I don't know if you can really argue about Justin Fields, whether or not you like Justin Fields that much. At least he has somebody to throw to and that the Bears are going to be committed to. So he now has a little bit of stability in the quarterback room that he can develop some chemistry with. They also took Tevin Jenkins and Larry Borum in the 2nd and 5th rounds, respectively. So they shored up the tackle position. So now all of a sudden you're talking about getting the offensive line and a quarterback to actually throw the ball to Allen Robinson. And Allen Robinson was the 10th ranked receiver last year with 2 quarterbacks who were not very good. So now you can give him a little bit of stability, and he's only 27 years old with a quarterback to grow into. He's just getting more and more valuable. He's definitely wide receiver 1 and could potentially be that guy this year that wins leagues. We're talking up in Stephon Diggs. I could see potential with that kind of movement. I'm really high on Allen Robinson. That's just personal. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved Allen Robinson. I love the pick, too. I love Justin Fields. You guys know I like Justin Fields a lot. I don't know that it's going to do even greater things for his value, though, because like you mentioned, he's already been top 10. He's already been inside the top 10 with terrible quarterback play. And so is good quarterback play going to really catapult him into that top 5, into that top 3, to where we're talking about Allen Robinson with DK Metcalf, Devontae Adams, and Tyreek Hill? Like, is that the sort of value that we can expect from Fields? I'm not saying I hate it at all. But I wouldn't move him too far, nor would I give up too much draft capital in order to acquire
For
him.
me, it's just target share. You know, I'm big on target share, and he is. There's no one there. Chicago has no one else to get the ball to. They didn't draft any more talent.
Darnell Mooney's
I
there. I
mean,
know that we got some guys. We got some guys here high on Darnell Mooney. Cole Kmet should start to come into his own. They're still feeding Montgomery there, and then Jimmy Graham, I believe, is resigned.
They also recently signed Marquise Goodwin.
remember the
I mean, he's flashed before, but
Track
Yeah,
star, by
we're
the way.
talking
Marquise
about a whole
Goodwin.
bunch
Track
of
star.
mid-level talent against one of the best receivers in the league. There's a reason Allen Robinson was wide receiver 10 last year because he had that target share with two quarterbacks. And now you're talking about even more target share with one quarterback there who can actually feed him the ball. I can see Allen Robinson being
Well, I don't know if he's gonna. I don't know if he's gonna get. I don't know if he's gonna get more target share because he had a very large target share last
Oh,
year. Like there's nobody. There's nobody really taking targets away, but they also didn't change much of anything
I
else
well,
either.
you can also talk quality of target share too, though. You know, if they're throwing it within 10 feet of them, that can count. But if it actually, it becomes more accurate or actually gets to them, and you can be more efficient
Well,
with them. Then that's saying a
that's
lot as
absolutely
well.
what I'm talking about. He had a 67.5 catch percentage last year, 151 targets. So definitely, he probably won't see more than that. You're right, but 100. I mean, we're talking about potential to be up in that elite status. Whereas in all of our top tens that we did earlier before the draft, Allen Robinson wasn't in the top 10 for dynasty receivers. I just think he goes from outside the top 10 to potentially top five with this move if Fields comes in and does what we think he should do, and at least longevity wise, I like it for Allen Robinson in Dynasty. Even if you don't believe it will happen right away, the fact that he has a quarterback now and he's probably going to be there with him for the next at least 5 years, I could see Allen Robinson being a top receiver. So if you can get your hands on Allen Robinson, I would do it.
You'd also mentioned Tevin Jenkins as well. He initially had a first round grade and he did
Yeah.
fall. A lot of it apparently was due to some injury concerns that showed up on pro day. But if he can remain healthy, that is huge
Yeah.
for them. That is huge for them getting him that first round grade left
Yeah.
tackle.
Yeah, it's hard to find a left tackle in the NFL. So I really like what the Bears did, and I like it for Allen Robinson specifically. David Montgomery probably too. And then my tight end winner, Mike Gesicki. As we mentioned before the draft, everyone before the draft thought Kyle Pitts was going to the Dolphins, and that would have just crushed him. So just the fact that he doesn't have Kyle Pitts in front of him, Mike Gesicki wins, and I have him, so I'm really happy about that. They did draft, who was it? Hunter Long in the third, but Gasecki is still the guy, and I love the fact that they bring in Waddle. That actually helps out Mike Gasecki. It's going to open up the field. More defenses are going to have to back up because of Waddle's speed and playmaking ability, and because Waddle is so small, he's not a big touchdown scorer in college, and historically he doesn't really get in the end zone. He's not going to be a red zone target, taking away red zone targets from Gasecki. So I think Gasecki becomes even more valuable in the red zone. The fact that he's 6'6" and goes up and catches the ball, and he had 40 targets from Tua in the 4 games they played together. I liked Gasecki before, and I had him in my top 10. Thomas, you didn't, and you didn't. I think this vaults Gasecki into potential breakout season candidate. When you're talking about 4 games with Tua and 40 targets, obviously it's 10 targets a game, 17 games. I don't expect 170 targets, but he could see 150 close to targets this season, and that's huge for the tight end position in general, but especially when it's tight, talented as Gasecki. So I've always been high on him, though, Thomas. I know you're not. How you feeling?
I mean, I'm still not high on him. I would say he's a winner in the aspect that he doesn't have any clear competition for the tight end position. But they also brought in Will Fuller. They also brought in Jalen Waddle. Each one of these wide receivers, you have Devontae Park on the other side. Each one of those wide receivers is certainly going to command pretty substantial target share. If Gasecki catches 40 balls, I think he would be like gifted with that.
40 in a
I
season.
don't think that's going to 40
Oh,
receptions. Targets the targets might be there around 60, 70, but they're going to run the ball. They've got Jalen Waddle, they got Will Fuller, they've got Devontae Parker. I'm not saying that he's not going to make an impact, but I don't love the whole situation for his
I think
fantasy
you're
production.
absolutely insane if you think he catches 40 balls next year. He had 85 targets in 15 games last year, and that was without the quarterback.
Minus Will Fuller, minus Jalen
Yeah,
Waddle.
but I still Gasecki is now the clear cut man there.
Jalen Waddle went sixth overall.
Yes.
You think they're not going to throw that guy the ball or get him the ball any
Oh, and
way
I also
they
think
can?
defenses will know that too. Which is why Gasecki will open up now. We're talking about defense, like what you mentioned, Will Fuller. He's a deep threat. He's going to force defenses to respect that. Jalen Waddle is so
But
electric.
gets a ton of red zone targets. He's actually underestimated on the red zone targets.
Maybe, but Gasecki is a red zone monster, and that's actually where he makes his living. He scores touchdowns, and that's I think it bodes well for him moving forward. And I'd be surprised, especially with how thin the tight end position is. If you're not considering Mike Gesicki, if you need a tight end, you're nuts. And I would definitely take a shot on Mike Gesicki. I have Mike Gesicki, and I'm excited about it. I'm considering moving my other tight ends because I have Gesicki sitting there. So
No wonder there's love for Mike
that's what
Gesicki.
this is. I'm building up his trade value, so you'll trade for him.
For the Dolphins, you can't forget about some of their other receivers. They have they actually turned around. They had a lot of issues with sitting out last year, but also injuries before. But now they have some really good depth because they also have on top of the guys you mentioned in Devontae, Will Fuller, and Jalen Waddle. They have Preston Williams still. He's shown a lot of promise. Alan Hearns, he's definitely a serviceable player. Isaiah Ford, he has some good flashes. And then Albert Wilson. So they have a pretty deep wide receiver group. Not necessarily. They're also like not all going to be on the field at the same time, but they're deeper than a good amount of other.
And
teams.
they're also receivers. So tight end will be on the field because the receivers can't all be on the field at the same time. And
true.
the receivers are deeply average. You just mentioned 5 guys who are okay. Every team has average receivers.
The tight end's gonna block. Gasecki's gonna block. Miami's gonna be the new Showtime of the NFL, baby. Splash plays left and right. All right, we don't need a.
It is going to be exciting, actually. I'm curious what they do in Miami with all that speed and talent. It's going to be they're fun to watch. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, that's good on the winners, but more importantly, now whose value has just tumbled after the draft? I have a good couple here, but Thomas, who are you're looking at?
I'm just gonna kind of. I'm not gonna listen this time. I'm just gonna kind of go in order. But I think everyone's unanimous loser, James Robinson. We talked about it late last year that he's one of those guys that's got such volatile value because if the Jaguars don't do anything in the draft, he looks like a top 10 running back for sure. He proved he's a top 10 running back. If they do anything with that position in the draft, all of a sudden his value becomes very, very murky. And that's exactly what happened. And not only did they draft a running back, they drafted a running back in the first round. Not only did they draft a running back in the first round, they drafted their number 1 overall pick's teammate for the last 3 years. So there's already a built-in rapport there between the running back and quarterback. It doesn't speak great things about James Robinson because it almost seems like we mentioned before, this new upper management, this new front office, they don't owe James Robinson anything. But James Robinson did prove that he can be an NFL running back and a serviceable one at that. But I see him certainly losing targets as far as receiving goes. But now we start to question how many times is he going to tote the ball, because like I said, first rounder on Travis Etienne, and Travis Etienne, he's a bruiser and he likes to run the ball as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they proceed with that situation. But if you didn't get out of the James Robinson business and you are currently still holding on to him, either try your hardest to get your hands on ATN or get out of the James Robinson
There's no
business.
getting out right now. James Robinson's value is so low. There's no point. You might as well hold on to him and hope he does something. I
don't think he's gonna go away necessarily. But this is just he's not a top 10. He's not top 15. Is he top 20 anymore? I don't want to say he's worthless because he's still.
How are you going to trade him? What's he worth? Who wants James Robinson right now? The only people would be Etienne owners.
He was RB6 last year, and so he can get it done.
Yeah, but with Etienne in the first round, as you mentioned, it's over. And I also have the Jaguars' entire running back core. Actually, I think Etienne gets hurt from his draft choice, or because now we're talking Etienne. He's going to lose carries somewhere. They're going to try and get Robinson on the field. Urban Meyer said they're still going to let him. It's not like he's not going to play. And don't forget, Carlos Hyde is there. I said before the draft, the Jaguars will probably not take a running back because they signed Hyde. It looked to me like they were shoring up the position and they'd be set. Lo and behold, end of the first round, they take one of the best running backs in the draft. I was so high on Etienne, and I hate where he landed. And it just kills that whole room. Can you trust Etienne to get the touchdowns? Is he going to lose carries at the goal line? Because both Hyde and Robinson are punishing backs. Etienne's a little speedier.
I wouldn't
don't know.
I wouldn't say it as I wouldn't say it absolutely kills ATN's value because we're talking dynasty
Absolutely.
here. James Robinson's shown the door at the end of this year. That's
Absolutely.
ATN's backfield. And now we're looking at another locked and loaded
But we
RB1.
So we still
So
don't know when and
Sorry,
where,
go
and that's the problem. It just hurts every single one of them with that draft spot. I'm not a big fan of the Jaguars at all anymore, especially with Urban Meyer. That whole backfield, I want to stay away from it. It makes me nervous. I would take, I will take Etienne and hope.
give
but-
me give me some
yeah,
ATN.
I
I'll
would
take it.
too. But just saying, it's just I don't like it. I don't think that's a league winner for at least this year and possibly moving forward for another year or two. So, that definitely it's
We'll
everyone's
see.
thinking.
We'll see.
With Urban Meyer saying that Etienne's going to be their third down back,
No.
that just
But I mean,
that
how
just
often-
not bode well.
How often are the Jags looking at third down? Let's be realistic. And there's always that built-in rapport of just dump offs to ATN. I think that that's going to really pay dividends more than you think, especially in PPR leagues. It's going to be huge. Him catching 5, 6, 7 dump offs a game, and if he turns those into
Yeah.
anything,
Yeah,
I'll
it
take
could be
it.
could be worth it. But yeah, I still.
So you're saying if you have James Robinson, hold on to him for the first couple games, hope he shows, and then
James
trade
Robinson,
him.
if you have him as an owner, you need Etienne because he's worthless. You don't trade him right now because you won't get anything for him. And then
or trade him to the ATN
Exactly.
owner and see what he'll
yeah,
give
but
you.
it just sucks. The whole situation sucks. So I agree. That's the huge loser of the draft. Everyone knows that. Who else you got?
Yep. On my second list here, like we were mentioning earlier, a little bit about the Broncos' offensive line. I put the Broncos pass catchers solely for the purpose that they didn't address QB. Okay, they had the chance at Justin Fields. They had the chance at Mac Jones, which I don't think they were going at Mac Jones anyway. But there's still so much chatter right now. Are they going to make the deal for Aaron Rodgers? As it stands right now, there's a QB competition between Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. With Drew Lock at the helm last year, Fant was 8th amongst tight ends, which that's a top 10 tight end. That's great. I'll take it. It doesn't get any better from there, though. You had Jerry Jeudy and Tim Patrick coming in at wide receivers 44 and 45, respectively, and then KJ Hamler at wide receiver 86. So with Drew Lock at the helm, if those are the numbers these guys are doing, it makes me scared that they can't make that next step with these guys at the helm. If you bring Bridgewater in, does he favor one guy over the other? So maybe one guy shines and the others don't eat. Could they just turn into a running team since they got Javonte Williams now because they can't fix quarterback? It's a lot of questions and it's a lot of headaches, and I really don't want to have any part of it as much as they have upside. Fant has the upside, Judy has the upside, but until we can fix the signal caller position. It makes me tough to really believe in these guys as top tier.
Yeah, I
assets.
think it hurt Judy too. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers has been rumored there, and I actually think that will go through, but we'll see. It hasn't happened yet, so it's a
Yeah. If it changes, we'll do a new winners and
Right.
losers, okay? And they're gonna go in my winners column.
Literally the entire
right.
team.
Well, who would put him in the winners? But I agree. No, Jerry Judy, right, with all the talent he has, and then Cortland Sutton. Don't forget he's coming back from injury. That's another knock.
Hurt majority of the year. Yeah, he was hurt majority of the year last year, but I mean, it's another set of hands that we can't seem to get the ball to, and so now you have all these mouths and limited QB play, and so who's going to be the star? I don't really want to take any chances on any of these guys.
What I
right
want to
now.
know in Denver is who the quarterback's going to be. That's my biggest question because honestly, I think Teddy Bridgewater is entirely underrated. And you give him the talent of core there. If he starts, I actually do like the Broncos pass catchers. Teddy Bridgewater is a possession quarterback. He gets the ball into their hands. Drew Lock's that gunslinger mentality that is a little more inaccurate. But Teddy had a 68% completion percentage last year. That guy can throw the ball. And then if you get the ball in the hands of Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton underneath, Jerry Jeudy showed all year what he can do with the ball. So I do like that, actually, if Teddy starts. If Drew starts, I don't. And I think the Broncos are more committed to Drew Lock because he's younger and that's their draft pick that they want to develop. So I'm not sure I agree entirely, but you're right. The fact they didn't draft a quarterback makes it murky.
And really, my only rebuttal to that would be just continuity. It's going to be a competition to see, first of all, who even the starting quarterback is. The team doesn't even know. So it's like we're going to run with one guy at the first team, the other guy at second team. But until they figure out who the guy is, and then you can start building chemistry, how long until it
Yeah.
clicks? Is it going to be week 8, week
Yeah.
10? You know what I mean? We can't sit around and wait for stuff like that in the fantasy community because every week is vital to either you winning a championship or if you're rebuilding, then maybe you go a different direction. But I don't know that I could sit here and comfortably say I'm going to count on Cortland Sutton, count on Jerry Jeudy, and in even some cases, I've found myself questioning counting on Noah Fant.
And you're right. Honestly, talking dynasty league wise, it's just long term for these guys. This it still hasn't been solved, so we don't know who the quarterback is. So it's hard to trust them as receivers with all the talent they have. It just is a shame that they haven't fixed that. I agree with that. I'll give you that.
Also, with Garrett Bowles finally figuring out his holding issues and kind of more elevating to his draft capital, they were still ranked 25th offensive line
And the
last year.
Jawan James, as we mentioned.
Yep. Yeah, and then yeah.
Well, it might keep them right
he's
around
out
the
as
same because
well.
they didn't have Jawan last
Right.
year anyway. So.
Yeah, valid. So I mean, it looks like they only drafted offensive guard Quinn Miners out of Wisconsin, but past that, yeah, they didn't.
Yeah, the Broncos, for whatever
I don't know.
reason, just
I mean-
refuse to address the offensive line, and it kills them every year. I don't get it, but
That
past
kid's
the-
good. That kid's good. Quinn Miners, that kid's good. So
But I mean, do you think he'll turn it around?
yeah, I don't,
25th.
as long as they have him playing guard
rough.
and not out of position, I think he should succeed.
we'll see. We will see every year with the Broncos. Thomas, what's your third loser?
Gosh, this one saddens me. But Chuba Hubbard is a guy I was really
He was so
high
high
on
on.
as a value pick in rookie drafts, hoping he landed somewhere where he could carve out that RB1 role, that 3-down role, and he gets drafted to the Carolina Panthers behind the consensus RB1 in Dynasty, Christian
Very
McCaffrey. So
dynasty.
it sucks, man. I was really hyped up. Obviously, it's a huge hit to his immediate value and quite potentially even the long-term value here, unless for whatever reason McCaffrey starts to get banged up, as we saw last year. It was the quad, it was the shoulder, it was the ankle, whatever it may be. That's really the only way he's going to get some opportunity. You don't ever want to wish injury on anybody. Especially someone like Christian McCaffrey, so I would never, but I'm still going to probably hold on to and keep my fingers crossed for Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, I
here.
mean, look, the only way you draft Chuba Hubbard or keep him on your roster is if you have Christian McCaffrey or super deep. You must be in one of those leagues that has super deep rosters, and you're like as you mentioned, you're hoping that he gets a chance somewhere or at some point. But it absolutely destroyed his value, and I was curious where he'd land too. He landed in the worst possible spot. He's just done in my mind. I'm not even going to look at him. I wouldn't carry him on my bench and hope either because Christian McCaffrey's typically fine. So
Yeah, I'm very sad.
yeah.
I'm very sad.
And, I mean, Christian's under contract through 2025.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's no chance they're going to try and get rid of him before that. Even after that, it starts getting more likely to be 29 at that
No,
point. But you don't want to wait that
No,
long.
Well, it's injuries.
Yeah.
Injuries is really, like I said, injuries is kind of what
That's
you're hoping
it.
for, but you don't ever want that on a player, like I said, especially McCaffrey's caliber. But I
That's the
mean,
only way, yeah.
if you have Chuba Hubbard, you kind of want to see what happened last year.
That's
You
the
know,
only way.
a quad injury that turned into a shoulder injury that turned into something else, and so your guy keeps starting week in and week out. But I don't foresee that happening, nor do I wish that upon Christian McCaffrey. But
Yeah.
I really love Chuba Hubbard to get an opportunity somewhere.
McCaffrey's going to retire in Carolina. They're not going to get him. So good luck,
Yeah.
Chuba. We'll see what happens, buddy.
Big sad, big sad, man.
Yeah,
Big
I get
sad.
it.
That's one of those things too. Like if he does get hurt and he profit off it, you feel especially bad because he's like a stand up man.
He's great.
You know, he does
Good guy.
right
Good guy.
on the field, off the field, all around. So you almost feel like it just hurts even kind of betting against
Yeah.
that.
No, it's just, I agree. Chuba Hubbard, I'm sorry, buddy. That sucks.
Well, I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not
Yeah.
alone. So all my other Chuba Hubbard hype train riders,
You did.
R.I.P. baby,
Man,
R.I.P.
you had
baby,
that train
R.I.P.
humming too. You were all on that train.
R.I.P.
Yeah,
man.
it's over. That train has crashed. All right, my losers. I got at quarterback. I had Russell Wilson. Just the fact that they didn't have very many draft picks, and he wants to be protected, and they didn't do anything again. They give him Dwayne Eskridge, a good receiver, but still, he needs protection. He gets sacked more than any quarterback in the years that he's played. He's the number one sacked quarterback, and he's tired of getting hit. And he says this publicly, and you do nothing. You give him another receiver. I think just with the fact that he's in the NFC West, he has to face three of the best defenses in the league twice a year. He's going to get punished. And we saw toward the end of last year that led to some dud games. I think it hurts his value as far as QB1. Is he up in the echelon? And obviously, Dynasty League, he's getting older, so he's not nearly as good. But I don't trust him to really win leagues anymore. As before, when he had those rushing numbers, you'd be like, oh, with the rushing numbers and the passing numbers, Russell Wilson's best quarterback in the league. I don't know if he has that anymore. And unless they do something about it, I'm not a big fan of Russell Wilson right now. I don't know how you feel.
I mean, my only rebuttal to that is they did bring in Gabe Jackson, excuse me, from the Raiders. Excuse me. So they're trying in a sense, but I mean, even with him getting hit as much as he's getting hit, he's still a perennial top 5 quarterback, and so I'm not going to be too worried about him unless we start to see early in the season that it is actually affecting production, because right now the offensive line hasn't affected production. Yes, we've had some dud games, but I think being down on Russell Wilson, ultimately, does that mean that we're down on DK and down on Tyler Lockett as well?
No, and I'm not down. Exactly. The talent's still there, and he still puts up the numbers. They're still going to throw the ball, so it's not like he's horrible. But when I'm talking about Russell Wilson being an elite quarterback, which he always has been, I just don't know if he is still up on that level, and if they won't get him something. I mean, he threw 13 interceptions last year. That was the most he's ever thrown. He also threw 40 touchdowns. Had the most attempts he's ever had. He did the most touchdowns he ever had. But I just don't know if it's going to keep leading to Russell Wilson heroics. How long can this guy keep saving this team without any help on the line? And I'm talking about this, he could have been the best quarterback in Dynasty forever if they would ever just give him an offensive line that can keep him up. Right now, I don't trust the situation enough to put him in the elite category of the Mahomes, the Allens, and et cetera, to win leagues anymore. If I have him as my number one quarterback and I'm competing right now, I'm looking to get upgraded at the quarterback position, and that's just my opinion on it. Running back for me, my loser was the Jags. We don't need to go over that again because obviously they lost. The receiver loser I have is the entire Bengals receiving core. I have that not because of the talent. Obviously, Jamar Chase is the best receiver in the draft, in my opinion, and most people's opinions too. And then they have T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. Those are three of the best. I think it might be the best receiving core in the league, behind Tampa Bay, with Antonio Brown now that he's back. But the problem I see in Cincinnati is what happened in Tampa Bay last year. We saw Chris Godwin's value plummet because there were too many mouths to feed. Mike Evans had some games where he flat out disappeared. He still finished the season strong, but Chris Godwin did not. And Antonio Brown was also fairly fantasy irrelevant just because you can only throw the ball so many times. I mean, the Bengals are potentially throwing the ball 50, 60 times a game. Joe Burrow is a great young quarterback, so it's a lot going to be on his shoulders, and he's going to have the weapons to do it. But I'm worried of those receivers, who's not eating. And there's always, of the three receiver groups that have success, when you have three receivers that need the ball, there's always one that falls a little behind. I'm worried it's going to be a T. Higgins because of the mouths to feed, he seems like the one that would be left out. Just my opinion. Chris, I know you have a lot of opinions on this.
So my biggest opinion here is, so if we're using the Bucks as an example, Chris Godwin and all that, the huge difference there is the Buccaneers defense was elite last year. The Bengals defense is about as far away from elite as you can get. So they made a whole lot of changes. They brought in Hendrickson from the Saints, which is going to be huge. He's a pretty decent pass rusher. They added some decent quarterback play. They have one of the best safeties in the league right now with Bates III. Sorry. So they're making some moves there, but that defense is going to get off the field real quick every time, and it's going to bring on the offense again. It's going to tire them out a bit, but I think this is one of those times. It's one of those fantasy instances where the offense is going to be humming. They're still going to be losing a lot of games, but they're going to be fantasy relevant the whole time.
I don't know about all three, though. Thomas, what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. In that aspect, as far as calling them losers,
Yeah.
But two of those guys are going to eat every week, and one of those guys might not. I mean, ultimately, they might all end up with 1,000 yards receiving, but on a week to week basis, which guys are going to be the guys? You know, are you going to start two Bengals receivers? Are you going to start one Bengals receiver and one Bengals receiver in the flex? So owning two of those guys will be tough, but I mean, obviously owning one of them, you want a little piece of that. But I can understand what you're saying. As far as real life football goes, it's probably a great move for them in their offense. As far as fantasy goes. It turns into another one of those headache situations. Yes, we know that their first round pick, Jamar Chase, is going to eat. Yes, T. Higgins, the early pick in the second round last year, should eat. Tyler Boyd eats very well out of the slot. But is that what's going to happen? So, yes, I agree with you in that aspect of them losers, that we just don't know exactly who's going to be the dependables.
Yeah, and that's the issue. I mean, we're talking about guys who should be top 10 receivers in the league. Tyler Boyd's status was just skyrocketing, and he's still great. I still take, I think Tyler Boyd's underrated and is one of the best receivers in fantasy. I just now, with all three of them there, will they all get the targets, and will any of them finish in the top 10 at the end of the season? I don't know that. Yeah. And that's a problem when you have the amount of talent they have there. It's just a shame that, unfortunately, I don't know if you're going to get that kind of production with the prices you're probably going to have to pay to get any Bengals receivers right now, because they're also tied to that young quarterback, Joe Burrow. Man, that's a great situation in real life. Fantasy, not
Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon as well. He commands targets out of the backfield, and he totes the ball 20 times a game, right? So, that's a tough scenario to be in there.
And then also, Riley Reef came back. They just signed Carmen. Frank Pollock, I think, is the biggest part here because he's their new lineman coach, or the offensive line coach. And he was their one before when Joe Mixon actually blew up. And so, I mean, like, Joe Mixon was ecstatic once they actually announced that he was getting signed again. Yeah. I'm also going to do something a little bit crazy here. The first person that comments on this, I will bet you $5. I'm not going crazy because you'll probably be a stranger, hopefully. I'll bet you $5 that the Bengals have 3 1,000-yard receivers this year.
I mean,
comment, let us know, and then we'll set it up.
No, but yeah, I'm worried.
Does Joe Burrow stay upright all year? You know,
are they going to put 38 points a game? I mean, I don't know if they can score that much. Are they that good now? All of a sudden,
yes.
Just from Jamar Chase.
Well, yes,
that's a legitimate concern.
We'll see. And then my other loser for tight end, Hayden Hurst. I don't have to say a whole lot about it. For me, this is more for Danny Pert, who I hope is listening. Danny, stop trying to trade me Hayden Hurst. He offered me 3 trades for Hayden Hurst last night, actually. Again, he's been trying to trade him to me all offseason. I didn't like him that much before anyway as a tight end, but Kyle Pitts was just drafted in front of him. Goodbye, Hayden Hurst. You were never very fantasy relevant anyway, and now you're droppable. So, yeah, you're a loser.
I'm sure they love running the 2 tight end sets, but I mean, bringing another blocking tight end, I'm sure Hayden Hurst was packing his bags during the draft, man.
Yeah, no, he's never going to see the field or the ball. He's done. Sorry, Hayden.
Later. Yeah, later.
So, also, those 2 tight end sets, like when they do run 2 tight end sets, it's still fairly rare that they're both fantasy relevant. Like there's a little while with like Ertz and Goddard most recently where the 2 were fantasy relevant at the same time. But that's not a common thing.
Kyle Pitts to the moon, baby.
Kyle Pitts to the moon.
100%.
I'm taking him at number 2.
I can't fault you there.
I know I will.
That's fair.
It's a 4 month from now prediction.
I was gonna say, before we move on, sorry, I don't know if you're gonna ask honorable mentions.
Any honorable mentions? I know you have.
I'm a mind reader.
Another prediction. Look at that.
I'm a mind reader. The only honorable mention I have is in my losers category, and it was a lot of the guys that you were hyping up. It's the Philadelphia Eagles.
I can't disagree more. But go ahead.
Just as a whole. I mean, don't get me wrong. Miles Sanders was getting the work last year, even with guys like Jordan Howard and Boston Scott there. But those guys are still there, and then they brought on 2 more guys, and so it gets a little complicated, right? Like, is the rookie going to come in and take over right away, or is the rookie going to have to wait 3 years behind a guy like Boston Scott, who could be the new Darren Sproles? There's a lot of questions here. There's quarterback questions. Okay, we've only seen Jalen Hurts for 4 games. What is this offense going to put on the field? Are they going to pass the ball over the place? Are they going to run the ball with their bevy of running backs? I don't
Exactly.
know, and I don't want to part. I don't want to.
And you're scared. But as an Eagles fan, I'm here to give you the
I'm
knowledge.
scared. Yes, scared because I don't want my running backs to be putting up zeros when I'm starting
And
them
I'm here
every
to give
week.
you
You
the
know what I
knowledge that
mean?
they already have come out and said they're building the entire offense
Oh,
around
my
Miles
gosh.
Sanders. Look what they did in Indianapolis last year. Sirianni was running that entire offense, and Jonathan Taylor, he made 2 fantasy relevant running backs on a weekly basis, including the number 3 overall in most Dynasty League rankings, Jonathan Taylor. Uh,
They had the number 1 rated offensive line.
Yes, and the Eagles had 2 years ago the number 1 rated offensive line when they were healthy. So the Eagles bringing in the best center in the draft helps out the offensive line. We're adding more running back talent around Miles Sanders, but it's going to be Miles Sanders. Kenny Gainwell's a third down back. He was a third down back projected going into the draft, so he's just going to get on the field and get some catches. He'll definitely be a little bit relevant, but it's still Miles.
You're sounding like Chris hyping up the Bengals here. Are the Eagles going to score 30-something points a game to be passing the ball to Devontae Smith
I mean,
and
obviously
getting all
not.
these running
But
backs
But the
work?
fact that you mentioned,
No,
you mentioned the fact
no.
that the quarterback issues. Yes, we do have quarterback issues. That means Miles Sanders is going to get the ball even more.
But this isn't even about the quarterback necessarily. It's just about these running backs and if it's going to be a carousel on who's going to be getting touches. Are they going to go hot hand? Because if so, that sounds like running back by committee to me, and I usually don't want any piece
And
of
I don't
that.
either. But there's no hot hand there. Jordan Howard's not going to see he might not even make the team. And same with Kerryon Johnson. He was just a depth signing. They're going to have him in training camp. He'll probably make the team as a backup. He won't see the field. It's Miles Sanders and maybe Kenny Gainwell sometimes. I'm sure they'll get on the field for a few touches a game. But it's Miles Sanders' backfield. I am huge.
Do you know how many games Miles Sanders played last year?
Don't. He missed a lot. He misses a lot of time for
I want to
injury.
say 7.
He played 7 games. Okay.
So that's just kind of a guess. I'm not 100% sure.
I mean,
but-
he finished. Let's see.
He did.
No, Miles Sanders played 12 games.
Oh, 12. Okay.
and he finished
All right.
at RB 23.
Yeah. He also touched the ball.
That's fringe RB
He touched the
2.
ball 192 times between running and catching. That's not a lot.
So he's inefficient.
He just didn't get the ball. They weren't giving him the ball last year. That's what the problem with the Eagles was all year. Watching every single game, it was why won't they get the ball to Miles Sanders?
So can you understand my concerns when they bring in another running back and they bring in a
They
wide
bring in an
receiver
entire
and they're
offense
gonna,
that's built around the run.
so he's gonna touch less? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm saying Miles Sanders to me.
That's is why I'm concerned. You're helping me prove my points here. Why I'm concerned for this Eagles
And I'm
backfield.
trying to tell you the opposite. Miles Sanders to me is a running back 1, and I'd kill to get him right now in any league because he is going to get the ball.
One of the questions I have, they have so much talent, or at least top heavy talent in the running back room. If they actually start utilizing it as they should, does that lower Hurts in value? Because a lot of his value is in his legs.
Yeah, I mean a little bit, yes, but I still will take Jalen Hurts as just for his running.
Red flags.
Yeah, there are red flags everywhere.
flags.
Always.
Red flags. Listen, if you want your dynasty team, your fantasy team to be good, get out of the Eagles running back business.
In all fairness, if you're relying on the Eagles running backs for your dynasty team, you probably are in bad shape, which is where I'm at. Second to last in the league. So.
And he solidifies my
Yeah,
points.
but I
Thank you
still
so
like-
much.
I still love Miles Sanders.
I think the real story here is if you want to get the best value on the players that you're trying to trade away, trade them to fans of that team.
also true. We all know.
Because y'all
Clearly,
saw how
clearly.
Glode was talking about the Bengals. Y'all saw how Adam Glode talked about the Eagles. I mean, Thomas
Or,
has his cowboy
and
moments.
Danny with his Broncos. Or just talk to me when I'm
Yep.
drinking late at night, like happened last night. And Danny got fleeced me for a future.
That's inappropriate. I mean, I think we need to start a movement where that is just not okay. You gotta
App developers.
let someone think about it for a night and wake up in the morning and then tell you when they're of sound.
Yeah, app developers.
We're not all like you, Chris. We're not all like you, Chris. We're impulse traders, all right? We make deals on the
I made
spot.
it in half of a second. He offered me 3 trades with Hayden Hurst. I laughed at him and sent him a text saying stop. And then he sent me an offer and I hit accept within half a second. And he just caught me at the right time at 1:30 in the morning. it's classic me.
At least I know. At least I know what time to fleece
Yeah,
you.
classic me. Jeez.
Sleeper add parental
All
controls after a certain time of night to
Exactly.
save.
That's what I'm saying.
People
Where's
like
that
that.
app developer who's going to come up with this technology to lock my phone so I can stop accessing it when I'm drinking?
Except for Uber or
Right.
Lyft or
Good
DoorDash.
point. Don't you allowed. All right. Nice. I like it. It wraps everything up today. Any further comments? I think we had a great show. Obviously, as always, like, comment, subscribe, follow our videos, see us on YouTube, follow us on Past the Projections at buzzsprout.com. Find us anywhere you can listen to podcasts. Please leave some info so we can get back to you. And follow us because we're going to start getting into these. We're going to start roasting some leagues soon. I like our ideas, and you're going to want to be there for that. So, Adam Skinner, once again, the coach, Thomas Lozano, the guru, Chris Roth, the wizard.
Also, that bet is real. First person to actually comment about it, I'll take you up $5.
I want to see it. We'll see it. We'll see you guys next week.
This guy's full of shit. He's not a believer in Jalen Hurts.
You got AJ Dillon and Henry Ruggs, you know.
Oh, don't even. Nah, they're not. I'll put them in the same sentence.
And I didn't have to pay up.
Yeah.
Still Burrow.
How many guys do you have left on your
Yeah,
board?
who is left here?